and we'll go to it. So today, I'm hoping we can talk about thriving, and I want to take thrive from the perspective of physical well-being as well as career well-being. I believe that the reason why Coach B said I should talk to us today is about career. So I would want to take that from the career perspective. I've had the privilege of working in many, I would say, very, very good workplaces. I've worked in Nigeria, I've worked outside, started in the health sector briefly, then went into telecoms. Then from telecoms, I went into banking, working in a bank, but in my specialty, which is the part of the world, the part of the business I work in. So it will be technology, financial technology. I work for MasterCard, by the way. And from working in a bank, I moved to MasterCard, and I have been at MasterCard for the past 12 years, going through many stages of seniority. And I want to share with you from my heart today something that I think the intersection between wellness and your career, and hopefully we can have a good conversation around it in the room. So this is where I want to start from. 81,396 hours. 81,396 hours. This is the time most of us will spend in the workplace during our active career. I'm going to repeat that. 81,396 hours. The only thing we do more than work is probably sleep. The average person will work over 40 hours a week. So the average is 41 hours a week. Some of us work way more than that. 48 hours a year for those that take their holiday, their vacation. Some people don't even take their holiday. And if you start working age 21 and you retire maybe 63, that is the average in the world, or you start working 25 and retire 66, whichever one yours is, you will work over 40 years, so about 41 years, active service. If you calculate that, that's 81,396. We spend a whole lot of our time at work, which is why it's extremely important we talk about wellness and we talk about work. And in this part of the conversation, we're going to split wellness into different parts. And I just want to thank every speaker that has gone ahead. I didn't have the privilege of joining all your presentations, but from the ones I joined, it's a very healthy and topical conversation we're having today. Because I'm talking from the career lens, I'm going to be starting from this. This may not affect your wellness, but I want us to talk about this. World Economic Forum every year has a study where they're measuring the gender gap. So gender balance is men and women, and we're measuring them against different indices. So every year they release this research, and what is supposed to happen is that the gender gap between men and women is supposed to be closing. But from what we have seen this year, from this year's research results, it will take over 130 years before that gender gap closes. And I just wanted to put some of the data out here. A little bit of it is relevant to what we're talking about, but this you should know. So what is on the screen, I extracted Nigeria's ranking from this report. It's the WEF 2023 Global Gender Gap Report. It's available on the internet. Overall ranking in Nigeria, if we measure men versus women, we're 130 over 146. If we check all four indices that they measured together. The first index is economic participation, and that is where we will continue talking from today. We're 54 over 146 countries, so I guess you could say we're not so bad in that index. When we move to educational attainment, we're 137 over 146. And when I say we, I'm talking about our country, Nigeria. What was measured compared to other countries, we're 137 in the ranking. When it comes to health and survival, we're 99 in the ranking. I guess we should be grateful, at least we're in the top 100 in the world when it comes to health and survival. Again, what we're going to talk about today is a little bit relevant to health and survival. Political empowerment is where we're doing the worst. There are only 4 countries worse off than us. And I put the 4 countries here so that it could possibly ginger some ladies in the room that you should possibly think about politics as the next step in your career, because we are not doing well at all. We're number 142 in the world when it comes to political empowerment. And I mean, it's evident when you look around us and our political leadership, look at the women there. Do we have enough women? Maybe not. So I'll go back to 54 in economic participation and 99 in health and survival as we go into the rest of this very, very short, I would say, talk. It is supposed to provoke us to think a little bit more. The summary of this slide is that women are very important when it comes to economic participation. When you look at the global population, it's not even, but it's relatively even. They're not far from each other. So if you have less women in the workplace, and I use workplace now as a very general term, not only formal career, but if you have less women there, then it definitely affects the overall economy of a country, okay? And I dare say that, okay, maybe I shouldn't make that comment yet. Let's go into the next slide. So again, I wanted to bring some stats that are a little bit provocative. This is not relevant to Nigeria. I'm using US and Canada's data because that is what is available. But I'm still trying to land the point of why it is important for us to focus on our well-being for the workplace. So according to Gallup, 500,000 more women than men left the workforce during the pandemic. US Census data for 2020 tells us that about 3.5 million women who were mothers with school-age children left the workforce in 1 year alone. We're moving to LinkedIn data now. According to LinkedIn, almost 42% of global workforce are women, which is not bad at all, because if you think about it, 48% are men. Sorry. But when they grow in career, as men and women start growing up in their career, something happens to the women. Because by the time we get to director, VP, which are leadership position, we drop to 32.2%. And by the time, as you see from this data, we get to C-suite, women as a ratio of total workforce has dropped to 25%. You know, there are different names for this phenomenon, but it's one popular name is drop to the top. If you look at the percentage, it's almost half when we all join together as what do they call us when we first join? Maybe interns and, you know, I forget the name right now, but first level when we join. Between when we get to C-suite, 75% are men. Something has happened to the women. Now, there are many things that happen to the women, and I'm sure a lot of it could have been discussed in the room today. So it's not that we're not going to school. It's not that we're not getting those jobs. We're dropping off at some point in time, or we're not getting promoted. One of the two. The study here is not really going to focus on that because that's not our focus today. But something happens to us. And my position is one of the many things that happens to us could be looked at from the perspective of the next page we're going to. So again, this is US data because that is the data available. And this is a comparison between stress. So Gallup have this study they do every year. they're measuring stress and other things that make you, the study is about employee well-being. And one of the things that they're measuring is stress. So they ask men and women questions to determine what stress, what are the stressors they have. And we can see here from this study, although limited to the US, and I keep on saying that because our context may be different, we may actually be worse, is that women are more stressed than men. Because if you look at the US, it's showing 46% of women reporting the stress versus 42% of men. But if you look at Canada, you are seeing 62% of women versus 52% of men complaining about stress. Now, why is stress important? And why did I move from gender parity to talk about stress in a wellness summit? Why is it relevant to us in the room? I'm hoping the next slide, so I'm seeing some questions coming. So I'm hoping the next slide can explain why I'm taking it from the perspective of stress. Well-being. So I've titled this slide Employee Well-being because wellness, when we're talking about wellness and well-being are two different things. I'm using them interchangeably in this slide, but I want to talk about the distinction because well-being talks about your overall life, the quality of your life. And I'm using now the terms that Gallup used in their study. So they are using 5 metrics to measure employee well-being. And a lot of us here are employees. And the 5 metrics that they're using is career well-being, social well-being, financial well-being, physical well-being, and community well-being. And the definitions are below. We'll talk a little bit about the 5. This is what they used in their study. So when they're researching how are people thriving, acting at their optimum in the workplace, these are the 5 things they want to measure. I have a disclaimer here. The 5th one, community. This is what Gallup used. I don't personally agree with this alone. I think it's broader. If you ask me, I think for the 5th one, we should be looking at we should be looking at impact and achievement, the impact you have to the society. And I think that we should also bring faith into it because it may not be totally relevant, faith may not be relevant in the workplace. That's why they probably dropped it out. But when you're thinking of your overall wellness, I believe that your relationship in your faith actually has an impact, but that's not why we're here today. So let me focus on where we're here today and speak about these 5 things and why I'm hoping people in the room take a screenshot of this slide, because if there's anything that I want you to take away from this meeting at all, it is this slide. For you to measure yourself by yourself according to these 5 metrics. How am I doing? What is my health in these 5, I would say, pillars? Because that is an indication of stress in your life or well managed, or if you're bringing your stress down. All this impacts stress. So let's talk about career well-being. Career well-being is talking about if you like what you do every day. Let me describe it differently. Career well-being is checking how you are thriving in your career. And that is linked very much to you liking what you do. A lot of people are in jobs that they don't like. A lot of people are in jobs that don't even fit who they are, their personal beliefs, what they stand for as human beings. It doesn't even really fit their skills. It's just a great job that you manage to get somehow. And because nobody is going to be out of job, economic situation dictates that we work, you stay in the job. But if you don't like your job, if your work is, sometimes we're stressed at work and we don't even know why we're stressed at work. It's one of these 5 things. And the main one could very well be you are not doing what you like, or you're not doing what you are great at. So we'll move quickly from there and touch on the others because of time. The second is social well-being. Very, very important. The study says meaningful friendships, but I broaden it to mean meaningful relationships. The quality of your relationships with your family, with your sisterhood, with your friends in church or whatever faith you have, your friends outside, the quality of your relationships has an impact on your stress levels and definitely has an impact on your social well-being, therefore your employee well-being, your total well-being from the workplace perspective. The third is financial well-being. That's very clear. Do you manage your money well? Is money stressing you? If it does, it's going to bleed into your career. The fourth is physical well-being. Do you have energy to get things done? And just to say that physical well-being and career well-being is where I'm going to focus hereafter, because these are the two themes that are relevant to the theme today. And I think if you can get these two sorted, you are halfway, more than halfway on your way to thriving at work and making it to the top. So I can see somebody asking, why are women dropping off? There are many reasons why women are dropping off, but I think two of those reasons, are on this slide, and it's something that we have control over and we have to start looking at right now. So physical well-being, do you have energy to get your work done? Are you always tired? You're too tired to think. How are you going to compete effectively with the other people in the workplace, the men in the workplace? How? Then community well-being, which is the last one. Do you like where you live? I find that very interesting. But remember that this research was done in the US and Canada, etc. So we'll skip that. But if I think about it, I guess where you live, it's true that where you live either stresses you or not. And it affects your quality of life, it affects whether you thrive or not. Think practical things like distance you have to drive before you get to work for people that work in person. Think practical things like, do you have enough support where you live for your children to play, or you have to drive out to go and look for somewhere for your children to play? Do you have noisy neighbors? Do you live in a good area? Stuff like that. But let's not digress and move on in this conversation. So like I said, there are two things I want us to take forward in this slide. I want all of us to rank ourselves personally, not here, about how we're doing in all these indexes. And then two that we're going to talk about a little bit more. One is career well-being, and the second was supposed to be physical well-being. But I'm going to step that down because there's a lot that has been talked about today around physical well-being. I'll say maybe one or two things about physical well-being, especially since we're women, and menopause is going to be part of it. So let's go to career well-being. And I'm rushing because of time and because I want us to have a robust conversation around this. So career wellness is extremely important. In this research, again, is the Gallup research. I can share the link. They said one of the greatest stressors, one of the greatest reasons why employees and then female employees were not thriving in the workplace was career wellness. It wasn't any of the four. All those are important as well, but this was the biggest one that was impacting them. Career wellness. And I want all of us to just stay for like a minute and think about where we work and what we do on a daily basis. It might not be the job itself, because sometimes we love the job. But for some of us, it's the political relationship around that job. It's the relationships. Sometimes it's the boss. Sometimes it's the people that work with you, your team. Sometimes it's your colleagues. Sometimes it's the politics that is happening in the organization. Sometimes it's that you are just not moving at the pace everyone else is moving. Because as women, we have other responsibilities that impact us. Before we go into this, and I know we would have spoken about it here, it's not, the stakes are not the same for men and women. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you see it, that's just how life is. Every life event that women go through, we need to make sure, whether we like it or not, has an impact on our career progression. And we just need to make sure, I'm not saying one is better than the other. Everybody has the, I can't even say that. But we all need to realize that getting married could have an impact on your career, depending on your husband and the support you get from home, and how you also want to work harder to make sure that there is balance. Getting children is huge. It is so important to us, but unfortunately has an impact. The good thing about this is that many companies, there's an increase in the number of companies, multinational and national companies, that are putting focus on making sure that women don't drop off here. So to the person that asked the question in the chat box, to ask, why do women drop off? One major thing is raising a family. Because sometimes the stress is too much. For you to give your best to your children and to your family, some women need to take time off. And it now becomes a little bit difficult for them to get back into the workforce. But think, if there are any women like that in the room, or you know any of such women, things are getting better. And I really cannot tell you which one is better, but I'm saying that the getting to raise your family is a privilege. And we shouldn't think of it as that we've lost out, or there's something wrong with us, or that we're not ambitious enough. I think it's a huge privilege. But it means that you now need to make sure that you don't get left behind. Some of it is in your hand, some of it is not in your hand. But I'm proud of many companies that are deliberately targeting some employment opportunities to women coming back into the workforce. I know Mastercard does that. We have a relaunch your career, I would say, process, where the jobs that come open under these opportunities are only for women that have taken time to go and raise children and come back. I think a lot more companies should do that. Okay, let's go back to career wellness and evaluating your situation. We need to ask ourselves this question. Okay, I said the first slide, you should take a picture of it. Please take a picture of this slide as well, because I'm hoping that all the career women here will do some introspection in this room and when you're alone about how you're thriving under career wellness. So the first step, if you want to get better, if you want to thrive better in your career, is evaluating your situation. And it's right there on the screen. There's some questions you need to ask yourself. What is most important to you at your life stage, at this life stage that you are? I know that the room will be a mixture of people that haven't gotten married yet. That's a different life stage. From married, things change, to married with children, things change. Having adolescent children, totally different from having children that are in university. You are in a particular stage. Oh, and some people are divorced. That's a totally different life stage as well. You need to look at your life stage and answer the question, this job, does it best fit my life stage? Or is it stressing my life stage? Now, I have to say this. I'm Nigerian, worked in Nigeria most of my life. So I know that, actually, let's not even put Nigeria into it. In the world, period, we don't have the liberty of saying, this job does not fit my life stage, I'm going to take another job. Some people do, a lot of people don't. So this is not to say, okay, The answer here is that it doesn't fit your life stage. You'll not be looking to resign. Please, oh, don't resign. Oh. Think of the cost of fuel. Think of the cost of food. Some of us are breadwinners in this room. So this is not pushing you to go and resign. This is pushing you to see where your stress is coming from because it's affecting your well-being. So once you identify it, you can think of what you can use to alleviate it. So back to the questions here. What is most important to you in this life stage? That's a question you have to answer by yourself. Have you entered, has anything happened to change your life stage? For instance, some people that were previously married could be divorced. This is a totally different stage, and it could affect your wellness at work. There were two of you before, now it's only you. It means you have to work harder to take care of the children. It means that you don't have any support at home. Is this job supporting you in this life change? Does anything need to change there? So that's the first step. The next step, when you know the problem, we're not just going to sit with the problem. We need to look for solutions. The next thing you have to do is, what could I do differently? So I've realized that this job, being in this job itself is not what I want to do. Actually, I'm more creative. I'm in a bank, but I want to do something more creative. You don't have experience for the creative yet. You can't get a job in the creative space yet. What do you do on Monday morning? What do you do for the rest of the year? So you start thinking about what things could I do differently to make me feel better. You start identifying what life or career you would want to go into. For some people, they're just scared. They know what to do, but they're just scared. There are people here that are either breadwinners for their nuclear family or breadwinners for the extended family. In any case, your salary is not for you alone. So when you take decisions, you cannot just take decisions of I like this job or I don't like this job. That decision has to take, that decision carries the weight of other people being impacted financially by the decision you're about to take. So it's a very heavy decision. For some people, so that's the reason why they're scared. For those people, this is a longer conversation. It's not in this room that we're going to settle that. But you need to start thinking about it. You need to start working towards a change. And you definitely need to start praying towards a change. For some people, they're just scared. We're all familiar with imposter syndrome. A lot of women are more impacted by imposter syndrome than men. Again, this is a topic from another day, but that's just the way it is. So you could get better jobs. Your skills are actually needed, but you're scared. You don't believe you're good enough. And because you don't believe you're good enough, you're not going to go for those opportunities. Whereas men, even if they feel that they're not good enough, actually, I don't think they ever feel they're not good enough. I think they're just brave and courageous and they just go for all those opportunities. But women hold up themselves back. We all do it. So what is scaring you? Is it a real fear? Is it imagined? Is there something you can do to balance it? This is another question. And the last question here is, could you take small steps? So you have to continue your bank job, even though you want to be in the creative industry. Is there something you can do right now on the side that can get your creative juices flowing? And it's a baby step that you will be growing progressively until you're able to make the major step. The answer is within you. Ask yourself that question. So let's say we've developed a growing mindset now. We know that there's hard work that we need to do. We already know it. We've already identified it. The next thing is that we need to balance work with life. I mean, this phrase sounds so easy, but it's probably one of the most difficult things to do. And all of you in this room know it. It's extremely difficult to find balance. Can you really find balance? Can you really be 100% fantastic mom and a C-suite executive in a multinational? The answer is within you, but definitely you need to strive to find balance. And how do you do that? It may require in your space taking different choices. You may need to take different choices. I've seen some people take lower paying job because they needed more time for themselves, for their mental health, and for their families. This is a choice. Obviously, this choice is a luxury to a lot of people, but it is a choice. Some people may decide to change jobs that work how many days a week to lesser days a week. A choice. Some people might actually decide to go in the opposite direction because that is what their family, their life stage, their situation needs. Balance work with life. Is it about money? Is it about next promotion? Or do you need versus more family time? What really does it mean to have it all? Our topic today is very contemplative because there is no prescriptive answer. Everybody needs to think this through for their own lives, their own families, and their own life stage for it to make sense. The last thing is that make space for hobbies. It sounds as if it's counterintuitive. We're trying to make people thrive in the workplace and we're telling them to make space for hobbies. Isn't that opposite sides of the coin? No. Discover what is missing and what part of you wants to come to life. Using the example of someone that works in a bank today, but actually wants to be more creative. The person probably needs to take some creative hobbies. Maybe. The person may want to spend time over the weekend learning something that they can go into business with. Very broad. Those are just examples of what you can do, but make space for hobbies. It is going to improve how you show up at work. It's going to improve how you can progress in your career. What roles and activities do you want to take outside of the office? For some of us, it would be menopause club or meno club. I heard that initially. The organizers of the meno club, that is purpose. That's probably not, I don't know about it. They don't probably earn an income for that, but it is life purpose. And the people that are doing it are going to get incredible value. The organizers, the people that put it together for the benefit of other people, for instance, are going to get incredible value in their own life because of that. That's just an example. I'll go to the last. I'm not going to move the slides forward anymore because I said we're going to focus on career wellness, and the second thing was going to be on physical wellness. A lot of today has centered around physical wellness, so I want to give that time up in case that there are questions. But before I give that time up, I was really excited when I came on and I heard Mrs. Dosumu talking about menopause. Because I feel that this is a topic that is not well discussed, period. Not in Nigeria, not in other parts of the world. It's increasing, it's improving. For instance, there's a meno club of hundreds of women. But I just don't think that before now, the focus to which we gave childbearing, childbirth, crèche, all that body of knowledge and all that allowance in the workplace, I do not think that that kind of focus has been given to menopause. Whereas studies are showing, research is showing that the age range for menopause and perimenopause is getting earlier. Some women are getting into perimenopause by 35. And yeah, you think you're young. Yes, you are. You're still seeing your period is still the full cycle. Yes, you are. But your body has started changing. And even though menopause is not a life sentence, I completely agree with you. It's definitely the next stage. There is so much that every woman has to learn about it. The way we know everything that has to do with conception, getting pregnant and giving birth and raising children, is how we need to crave for information regarding perimenopause and menopause now. A lot of us in this room, the ones that haven't gotten into menopause yet, or perimenopause yet, you need to start doing medical tests of your nutrients in your body. You need to get nutrient markers, definitely before you get to age 40. So you will know what your optimal, I would say, ratio of nutrients is versus what is definitely going to happen to you down the line. As these hormonal imbalances happen, and I'm happy that justice was done to it earlier, and as we begin to lose estrogen and we begin to lose magnesium, not only do we have physical changes to our body that affect how we can thrive in the workplace, we also have mental changes to our brain that affect how we can learn, how we can remember things, and our ability to work in the first place. And this is a huge problem that everybody, I won't say everybody because we spoke about it in the room, but a lot of people are not ready to shake that table yet. And it needs to be shaken. Brain fog happens a lot to women that are just going into the executive stage, that are going into senior leadership, because that's where we get to by the time we get to 35 to 45 to 50. So for the people that experience brain fog, you just will not remember some things. Meanwhile, you're in the workplace with younger people, or even people your age that are male, or people your age that are not going through menopause. There is no way, if you are not supplementing and doing everything that has been said in this room and more, that you will be optimal. Still on menopause, physical symptoms. Some people are, because obviously they're not supplementing and they're not aware of it, and some doctors are not talking about it. They're going through so much physical pain that they actually think they're going crazy, but they're not. And all these things can be dealt with. I think the way our body changes after childbirth, the way our body changes as we go into perimenopause and menopause and postmenopause, the depth of research around it, the depth of knowledge around, some knowledge is available. If you go on Instagram, so many women are talking about menopause now. Go there and look for this knowledge for yourself. If you're not there yet, you are going there very soon. So why don't you make sure that yours is a better experience? Because I believe it has a direct correlation to performance at work. And it has a direct correlation to women dropping off. But it doesn't need to be that way. I'm going to pause now because I'm so sure that I've gone past my 25 to 30 minutes. And I'll see if there are any questions from the room. But I just want to thank you for the privilege of sharing this time with you. And even though I can't see you in the room, I'm sending my warm greetings. I'll pause now for questions.